You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. Spring will be here soon, so if buying a new home is on your to-do list, right now is the time to call Quicken Loans. Learn about which mortgage options make sense for you and get a jump on your competition. With our exclusive Rate Shield approval, the low rate you lock today is protected for up to 90 days while you shop for your new home. With a Rate Shield approval, if rates go up, your low rate stays locked. But if rates go down, you get that new, even lower rate. Either way, you win. Talk to us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com to take advantage. Here's another great reason to work with us. For a record 9 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Again, to lock in today's low mortgage interest rate and get the security of our exclusive Rate Shield approval, call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Hi, welcome to the Subway ad for the new Sesame Ginger Glazed Chicken Signature Wrap. How would you like it?
I'll take a...
Sports announcer at home?
Yeah, how'd you...
We just know.
My wife picks up the new Signature Wrap. It's got double the rotisserie-style chicken mixed with a sesame ginger glaze. She appears annoyed at me, but she shrugs it off. Those sweet and savory flavors are calling her name. She lifts the wrap and she takes the bite! Incredible! And now she's closing the door on my... Subway, make it what you want.
Limited time only at participating restaurants. Double meat based on average 6-inch sub.
I'm little teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out.
This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
It's Macy's Friends and Family. Shop our biggest savings on the best brands and all the latest summer trends. Take an extra 30% off with your coupon or Macy's card, plus an extra 15% off any beauty purchase. Best of all, you get those savings on the designers that almost never go on sale. So this is the perfect time to find great gifts for Dad just in time for Father's Day. And a great deal just for yourself. Right now at Macy's Friends and Family. Extra 10 to 30% savings off regular and sale prices. Exclusions apply.
USA Radio News with Rick Vincent.
Tensions continue to grow between Congress and the White House over Saudi Arabia, especially now that the U.S. government has obtained intelligence that Saudi Arabia has significantly escalated its ballistic missile program with the help of China. That according to an exclusive report from CNN, who's quoting 3 sources. Also, senators from both sides of the aisle said Wednesday they plan to block U.S. arms sales to Saudi Arabia and other Arab states in a bipartisan rebuke of the president, saying they had to act to safeguard Congress's right to review weapons deals. The deadline is Monday for a 5% tariff being placed on Mexican goods imported to the United States. Republican lawmakers want a meeting with the president before the tariffs begin. Many, like Texas Congressman Will Hurd, say the global trade war could have harsh consequences for American consumers.
When the cost of food on your table and your groceries increases, when the cold beer you want to drink on a hot summer day increases, these are all things that are going to have an impact on the American consumer.
You're listening to USA Radio News. While some House Democrats say it's time to impeach President Trump, both House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Judiciary Committee Chairman Gerald Nadler say facts are needed first.
Right now, we have to get the facts out. We have to educate the American people because, after all, the American people have been lied to consistently by the president, by the attorney general, who have misrepresented what was in the Mueller report.
Republican lawmakers in North Carolina failed Wednesday to override a veto by the state's Democratic governor against a proposal to create criminal penalties for doctors and nurses for failing to care for an infant during an unsuccessful abortion. GOP North Carolina Representative Greg Murphy had argued that the bill only calls on doctors and nurses to be kind and loving in caring for a newborn that survives an unsuccessful abortion.
Please don't make this the issue that it's not. It is not about abortion rights. It's about right for existence.
The vote was 67 to 53. 72 votes were needed to override the governor's veto. A Texas high school teacher who thought she was private messaging anti-immigration tweets to President Trump has been fired for asking the president to deport undocumented students. This is USA Radio News. One Southern California community is decriminalizing so-called magic mushrooms, while another is banning almost all tobacco sales. Chris Barnes reports.
Denver did it, and now Oakland, California is the second city in the nation to decriminalize psychedelic mushrooms. The city council passing a resolution instructing police to stop investigating and prosecuting people using those natural psychedelics. An amendment states, though, that does not authorize commercial sales of them or the possession or distribution of them in schools or driving under the influence of them. Meanwhile, the city council in Beverly Hills has approved a measure making the city the first in the nation to ban virtually all tobacco sales. And that goes for e-cigarettes as well. That new law does not apply to hotels or swanky cigar bars, though, frequented by celebrities. I'm Chris Barnes.
As the world observes 75 years since D-Day, President Trump traveled to London for talks with British leaders, and in an interview on Good Morning Britain, host Piers Morgan asked Trump about his lack of military service in Vietnam.
I was not a fan of that war. That war was not something
would
that
you like
we
to
should have
serve
been involved
generally, perhaps in another?
I would not have minded that at all. I would have been honored, but I think I make up for it right now. I look, $700 billion I gave last year, and then this year $716 billion. And I think I'm making up for it rapidly because we're rebuilding our military.
A congressional delegation led by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is traveling to Normandy Thursday to help commemorate the 75th anniversary of the D-Day invasion. For USA Radio News, I'm Rick Vincent.
We gotta do something. Absolutely. You know what we gotta do? Toga party.
Toga! 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 Click, click, boom! I'm coming down on the stereo. Put me on the radio. Click, click, boom!
I want you to kill every golfer on the course.
Check me if I'm wrong, Sandy, but if I kill all the golfers, they're gonna lock me up and throw away the key.
Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh?
It's Chat Lives Matter Day right here on KLRNradio.com. I'm one half of the crew, Mr. Rick Robinson. You are listening to the Robinson and Wright Show, but for tonight, it's the Robinson and Amos Show. We have the one, the only Ordy Packard. You may have heard him on last hour, sounding a bit robotic, but we're going to tough it out, and he's going to hang out with us for as long as his internet holds out, or for an hour, whichever one comes first. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Tomo arigato.
Mr. Roboto.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah, now everybody's going to have that Stick song in their head.
It was already there. So it's fine.
You're welcome. Yeah, we did that shtick before FUBAR. So
yeah, so been there. It's been there like the whole time, and then now my internet's been acting up. The board's been freezing, and I'm just like, yeah. So I don't know. I need to learn how to use. I need to learn how to use the Spreaker app because apparently they're doing away with the virtual console that's web based because nobody uses the Java plugin stuff anymore. I'm old. I've realized that as I've gotten older, because things like this never used to bother me, but now I hate change, literally. And I work in a field where things change every other day, and it just... Go ahead. Uh-oh. We lost him. But yeah, so while we're waiting for him to see if he comes back through the wormhole, I work in a field where things change every day, and it's becoming harder.
Yeah, so... I came back through the wormhole, sorry.
No worries. I was just filibustering until I heard you. Till I could actually make out what you were saying again. But yeah, so what were you trying to say when you decided to take another trip back over to the other reality that you're from?
I said I've come back through the wormhole. I just I'm not going to be able to get back into chat. So sorry, chat lives matter. I can only do one thing at a time.
Sounds like me and my job. I can only do one thing. Which one do you want me to do? But yeah, so speaking of what do you want to do, so I know you guys talked about this a lot, but I haven't had a chance to really say much about it today because I've been locked in a cubicle all day and couldn't really. I watched fascism in real time today.
Yeah, that was scary. We just did a whole hour on it, but I cannot talk about this enough. But I want to hear your thoughts on it. Everybody heard my thoughts last hour.
So my thoughts, first of all, you saw the announcement. We're no longer using YouTube. I've made every video on the YouTube channel private while we go through and delete it because I don't care. They can change their mind. They can recant. They can say, well, we'll pay you $1 million to come back on. I'm done.
Right.
I'm done.
Well, now let's not get crazy. We'll take the $1 million.
No, well, I mean, I might take the $1 million, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm ever going to have a contact back up there again.
No, they've completely shit on their content creators, and this is the thing that YouTube can't figure out is that their content creators that's their product that they're selling, you know. So that's kind of like them saying, you know, we're going to get rid of all the flavors of Coke and just go with Coke Zero.
Yeah, go ahead, because I'll stop drinking Coke. But here's the thing that makes absolutely no sense about this, because YouTube's stance on this makes zero sense. Because here's the thing. When you're on a YouTube video, because Google owns YouTube, they use the Google Analytics and all the searches and everything else to figure out the things that you go to most often, and those are the ads that they show you. So this isn't like they're running the risk of losing the advertisers, because the advertisers are done just like they are on Spreaker. They have a contract with Spreaker, and they basically play them based on, I mean, I've talked to people before where I've heard one person heard a Progressive ad while the same time somebody else heard a Carl's Jr. ad. It just depends on where you are, and it depends on what you're searching for. The same thing happens with YouTube. So the idea that they're trying to protect their advertisers is crap, because the advertisers don't care. They don't care about the content providers. They only care about the number of people that are watching the videos, because it doesn't matter to them what the video is as long as their ad gets played.
Right. Well, I mean, that goes with the Tucker Carlson thing, too, with Bear. You know, Bear tried to appease the online rage mob. Didn't work. Bear went to advertising.
All right, so
you know that's the same thing with YouTube advertising. You know, so
yeah, we've lost him again.
Yeah, let me shake my cell phone, see if that helps.
I'm just saying, you need to stop. You need to turn off the sliders.
Okay, well,
you need to turn off the sliders timer, bro. You keep trying to go back and forth. It ain't working.
Yeah.
Stop going through the wormhole.
All right, we'll try
man.
it now. We'll see how I last now.
Yeah, actually, you sound more stable than you have for the beginning of the show. So
Yeah, that's. I had my phone over by the window, but what's weird is that when it's done charging, my signal goes to shit. So I just unplugged it and carried it over by the computer.
Nice.
Anyway,
weird.
Yeah. So
All right.
we'll go with that.
Seems to be working better for now, so we'll see. But yeah, I mean, the whole, I'm so sick of the rage mob. I mean, literally. And this is the thing, folks, and this is the part that I'm trying to make everybody understand, because I had a friend of mine, when I posted the notice from KLR and Radio that we're severing any implied or direct relationship with YouTube based on the decision that they made earlier today, because I was reading the tea leaves. I mean, even because everybody's like, what are you doing that for? They said Crowder was fine. I said, you just wait.
Yep.
And then,
well, they went after Alex Jones. They've gone after PewDiePie. They've gone after, you know, it's been a slow trickle. But today they went after history teachers who were using Nazi propaganda as a teaching tool in their videos, but because it had Nazi propaganda in it, yanked their service. A lot of people got yanked today. Not just demonetized. Their whole library would poof.
Yeah, and I mean these are people, and one of these people is actually a fairly well-known content creator, and he basically went on, I think it was a 10 or 12 tweet rant about it. He said, "You guys don't understand how hard this is. YouTube was one of the first things that allowed content creators to find out how to get paid for the work that they do, because it's so hard to get paid for the stuff that we do. And the fact that they're coming after this when this is something that has been used in documentaries, this is something that has been used in classroom discussions, and it's being pulled just because it talks about Nazis. I have a huge problem with all this. I have had for a long time, and everybody thought I was crazy because I kept telling everybody. First they went after the Confederate flag, then they went after all the Confederate statues, then they started renaming any schools that had anything to do with any name that sounded like it was part of a Confederate general or anything else. And now that they've done all of that, now they're moving on to the next things, because they're like locusts. They find a target, they attack it until that one's gone, and then they move on to the next one. So what's going to happen eventually?
No,
go ahead.
That's a great metaphor for it. And that's like, a lot of sci-fi films where the aliens are just locusts. They go from planet to planet, destroy eat all the resources to the next planet. And that's what
You're gone again, bro, if you can hear me.
SJWs do. They try. I can maybe.
I've got you again now.
Okay. Yeah, where'd you lose me? Because they would,
No, you were talking about locusts and how SJWs are basically locusts. I mean, I got most of what you were saying. It was just coming through kind of muffled.
Yeah, it's like I said, they went after video games, it didn't work. They went after comic books, it didn't work. So now they're going after content creators. And with that, they can totally revise history. And this is something that Orwell warned us about. It's what Huxley warned us about. History's important. And when they can just erase it because it offends them, there's a problem.
Well, it's not just that. When they're no longer teaching history, which they're not, because, in the late 80s, history basically got replaced by social studies until you got into high school. Now they don't even teach that in high school anymore, because I just asked my son who's graduated, did you ever take a history class in high school? It's like, not besides art history. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and that's why there's... we see it on Twitter all day long, why so many people are so dumb about the Constitution and about our founding fathers and about the laws and the rules that govern us as a society.
Yeah, but that's part of it. They want people to be that way. Because if you don't, so here's the thing, and this is something, again, tinfoil hat, I get told this a lot lately, but I still think in my heart there is a specific reason they've stopped teaching cursive. And it's not because everybody types everything on tablets anymore. It's because if you stop teaching cursive, you're taking away the ability to read cursive. All of our important historical document sourcing is in cursive. Imagine how much easier it's going to be to tell people what the Constitution says when they can only read the PDF format that's in block letters.
No, absolutely. I agree with that. That's not tinfoil. That's by design. I 100% agree with that. And it seems like such a little thing. Oh, gee, they're not teaching cursive anymore. Like you said, not just our founding documents, the Magna Carta, these are all written in handwriting, in the best, clearest format that was agreed upon by the scholars of the language.
And now they're taking away the ability for the people of this generation and the generations after it to be able to read anything but the electronic versions. And we've all seen how easily that can be edited. Anybody that knows anything about freaking anything can make a Wikipedia article, say whatever the hell they want.
Well, and I didn't touch on that in the last hour. One of the things that we watched in Gamergate was them edit wiki pages in real time to support what they were doing. And it was like they turned into when you would say something like social Marxism, and they turned it to where if you said that was an anti-Semitic thing to say, because they rewrote the history. So when you said social Marxism and anybody looked it up, it was tied in with anti-Semitism. So then they could just brand you an anti-Semite. Yeah. And that page never got corrected.
No, and it didn't, and that's the scariest thing. When you're living, I mean, it's like what we watched today. You saw people's entire livelihoods destroyed, and I'm just gonna. There's a host on the air with us here on KLRN Radio who coined a phrase that I'm gonna steal. He calls him Gadolf now. I'm just gonna use that. I don't.
yeah, Gadolf Hitler.
I'm just going with it because I mean at this point we're watching fascism in real time, and and I had a friend who came onto the comment when I said that we were doing away with the YouTube channel for KLR Radio because of this, and he said, well, is it because of this? And I said, no, it's because of this. And he said, oh, well, that's unfortunate, but at least it's a well-meaning idea, even if it was poorly executed. I said, this isn't a well-meaning idea. This is fascism wrapped in a warm blankie.
No, this is total censorship, and it's the same thing. Those of us who are old enough to remember it, this is how political correctness started. You know, it well intentioned. Well, you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Well, that's fine, but now you have just controlled the language by saying this word is ableist, or this word is sexist, or this word is racist. You know, so context doesn't matter. Just using that word makes you some ism.
Well, that's like the Twitter account that I shared in the green room earlier that I pray to God is somebody doing a shtick, who was like, oh my God, I can't believe that blah 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 is still using this word, and it was like it was a makeup, and I'm not going to mention the brand of makeup.
Black makeup. It had negro on it, which is Spanish for black.
Yeah, I mean it was three different languages.
It was black eyeliner.
It was black eyeliner, and in English it said black. In the middle it said a negro, and then it looked like the other one was in Chinese. She was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they named it this." So like, you can't. Please tell me you're kidding. I hope to God you're kidding.
Yeah, please be a parody. Please be a parody.
Because
please just be fishing for outrage so you can make fun of them.
If not, I'm really terrified for our future. People don't realize that that's actually the word black in another language.
Right.
Oh my God.
Well, I mean, that's. I can't remember what it was recently. With the ketchup mayonnaise, the mayonnaise. Did you hear about that?
I have not heard about that, and I'm not sure I want.
Did you lose me?
No,
okay.
You faded out, but I heard what you
mayonnaise. I lost you for a second, but mayonnaise in Cree Indian means. Can I swear on the show?
Sure.
It means shithead. So it's kind of like that whole, if you don't understand these things, this is the trouble you get into. And if that wasn't a parody account, was actually outraged about the word negro on the eyeliner, then that's just butt stupidity. But you know what'll happen is that there'll be an outrage mob against Maybelline now.
Oh yeah, there will be, but that's fine because then all the conservatives will just buy that particular product.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes we're no better than they are at it. I mean, look at all the people that crushed their coffee machines for Hannity. I mean, we're just as prone to outrage mob too.
Well, and that's the thing. Honestly, I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things that I've noticed is, and I'm afraid I apologize if what I'm about to say is going to step on anybody's toes. But when I first started telling people about Parlay, and I was like, look, it's not perfect. It's fairly new. It's only been around for about a year. But I think if we all get behind it, we can actually finally find a viable alternative to Twitter, which we've all been screaming that we wanted for pretty much the entire time I've been on Twitter. And then it's like everybody forgets what a trash heap Twitter was when it started. How many times it crashed. How you used to only be able to do like 140-something characters. How half the time you try to log in, it says, I'm sorry, the Twitter app is not responding. And then half the stuff didn't work. And it's like now that Twitter, at least for the most part, is pretty much up 24/7, even though everybody complains about it because it sucks and they shadow ban you and you can't get to anything and you can't do this and you can't do that. It's like, well, it's not stable enough over there. Well, no, it's not because I don't think they were expecting for the CEO of Parlay to wind up on Fox News because I know people that go on Fox News all the time. They usually get like maybe 12 hours notice. Because it's like, well, this story fell through. Who can we reach out to? I don't think. Right. I don't think it was planned.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it wasn't, and a lot of what has been experienced this weekend has been growing pains. Having said that, okay, in looking into viable alternatives to Twitter, they have Twitter in a box where you can unpack. You put it on your website, you unpack it. You've got a 2015 Twitter clone. So for some of the problems that Parler has, and I saw the gripes, they're legitimate gripes. But some of it, like the problem with the access of logging in and trying to do the verification process, that is growth pains because they have had to increase their server load. I think I saw 6 times in the last 7 days where they've had to go up to a new plan because they were getting overwhelmed. So, yeah, I mean, they didn't expect the CEO to go on Fox, for Dana Lash, for pretty much most of the figures of the right to suddenly start, Schlichter and the rest, to suddenly start using them. Okay, it would be like if they had all done that with Minds and suddenly it wasn't just Vietnamese women who love me for who I am. So,
not only do they love you for who you are, they will love you a long time for who you are.
Right, yeah. I tried Minds. I like Minds. I see what Minds is trying to do, but 80% of my followers over there are very voluptuous Vietnamese women who love me just for me.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, and again, maybe it's just because as I'm getting older, I'm getting more cranky. But I'm just like, if we don't actually get behind something that may or may not be able to become something that we could all use, instead of just always complaining about it, then I don't know how we're ever going to get away from Twitter, which we all seem to say we hate, but then we never leave.
Well, I mean, we got to be honest. I've said this a few times, and we got to be honest with it, is that if Trump were to leave Twitter, Twitter would die overnight. At least American Twitter. Because the only thing keeping us there is making fun of the left and basically the media. And the media is predominantly there to wait for Trump to say something and to react to what he's tweeted. And that's so if Trump were to suddenly go to Parler or Minds or anything like that, Twitter would die, and that new one would have to take up the slack of several million users instantaneously.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, one of the things that I am getting more excited about with Parlay is I actually am seeing more and more big-name people starting to use it. Because Dana had an account that popped up about 2 days ago, and it didn't have the verified influencer badge yet. So I'm like, hey, Parlay, is this actually her? And then I look back the next day, and it was the same account, and she had the badge. And I'm like, yeah, it is her. She still hasn't followed me over there yet, which makes me sad because she follows me on Twitter, but that's another story.
Well, she doesn't follow me on Twitter. Chris does, but whatever. No, Parler has great potential, and I want to love it. I haven't been able to log into it for the last 2 days because their desktop version sucks, but I have hope. And again, this is growing pains thing. Yeah, they've been around for a year.
It's gotten really cranky since they added the capture feature.
Weemy has been around for 7 years, and they have made no advances. Their coming soon still references 2013, so they can eat a bag. Yeah. So, but Parler is actually being proactive in their upgrades. So good on them, and let's hope that it works. I mean, right now, it's just a conservative echo chamber.
Yeah, and I mean, it may stay that way for a while. That's one of the reasons why, I keep talking to people that are like, well, I don't know what to do with it yet because we're just all talking to each other. And I'm like, use it as a way to get people's attention that already are on your side and then use it to build a following. And that's what I keep trying to tell everybody is like, right now, think of Parlay as you're behind friendly lines instead of at the battlefront. Twitter's the battlefront.
Right.
You can actually take shots at the other side all day long if that's what you want to do, and that's fine. That's part of what Twitter is for. But at the same time, I've really been trying to find a way to build an audience and build a following, and I haven't been able to do that on Twitter for a long time because they cut my reach on half the things that I say. And I know this because I've been on Parlay now for like 4 days, and I already have more followers than I had in the first year and a half I was on Twitter.
No, totally. I mean, I've only been on Parler once. I signed in first on Saturday, and I had a couple hundred followers by the end of Sunday night. And then I haven't been able to log in since. But no, it totally. Yeah, everybody keeps talking about how they need to take a break from Twitter and Twitter's too toxic, well, great. That's when you go to Parler.
Exactly, and that's kind of what I've been saying.
Yeah.
Is
But Angie joked about it, and it's right that there was a hashtag on Parler with hashtag cats for Trump, and even I had to cringe. I'm just like, oh my God, guys. I mean, but you know what? It took us a long time from 2015 to purge ourselves of the constant Trump 24/7 tweets. So I get it.
Well, I mean, and those are going to ramp up anyway because we're heading into an election cycle. So I mean, it's going to get worse before it gets better, and that's part of the reason why I've been trying to get some of the people that we know to actually come over there, because that's all I'm seeing right now is echo if you want to ride on the Trump train and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I just want to be able to have a conversation about things that matter without the thought police saying you suck, because we're seeing that now everywhere. I mean, at this point, I wish to God I had the money, because I would so find a way to build a YouTube alternative and just be like, everybody who actually wants free speech, come use this one, because I will never shut you up. I may tell the police where you are if you're doing stupid stuff on my channel, but I will not ever shut you up.
Yeah, I'll have to look back into it, because I remember back during the last adpocalypse when YouTube did something similar to this, and they squashed a lot of they changed monetization for a lot of the tech sites that I watch too, like Linus Tech Tips and Tech Minute and things like that, where I think one of the co-hosts that's on Tech Tips, he was starting his version of YouTube because they were constantly getting demonetized on pigs.
Okay, so I made out most of everything but the last sentence, if you're still there.
Okay, so Linus Tech Tip is like 2 million subs, and I think one of the guys there was working on a YouTube alternative because they were getting demonetized. So they were finding a way to get the bandwidth and everything necessary to create an alternative to YouTube. I'll have to follow up on that now that we're in Adpocalypse 3. Because this is not the first time YouTube has done this. Just nobody noticed the last time unless you had a gun site. Or...
Oh, no, I noticed because one of our biggest advertisers back then was actually somebody that was trying to build a gun site, and they demonetized his whole channel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, once again, this is like I talk about on Fubar often, is that we're a little bit more connected than our listeners are. I mean, our listeners are really connected, but we kind of notice things like this because this is what we do 24/7.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if I've made the right life choices. I mean, I subject myself to this for nearly.
You want to be happier, right?
Okay, so I'm going to translate that from Wormhole. It sounded like you said you can either be happy or right. You can't be both, but I'm just guessing.
Yeah, you can be happy or right. You can't be both. Sorry, I faded out there. I just I moved my phone to another spot and hopefully for a better signal.
So just because I know you'll get the reference, at least I hope you will, Star Trek the Motion Picture, Wormhole scene. That's what you sound like when that starts happening.
Okay. Yes, no, I get the reference. And with
Fire
the bald
photon
chick.
torpedo. Yeah, that's you when that happens. I'm like, what?
Yeah. The one with the bald chick that fell in love with Proto Riker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, talking about just having a conversation, I'm going to sidetrack away from Paul. We had a great Deep Space Nine conversation last night. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, it wasn't just a Deep Space Nine conversation. It turned into pretty much every part of Star Trek and how much some of them sucked and how good the others were. And then everybody started sharing the Star Trek actors that had blocked them. And I'm like, you got blocked by Picard? How the hell do you get blocked by Jean-Luc Picard?
Probably made fun of him being the shit emoji in the Emoji Movie. I mean, how far have you fallen? Well, no, I take that back. Patrick Stewart's a good sport because if you ever listen to his voiceover work on American Dad, it's hilarious.
And that's what I'm saying. I think he's just gotten to the point and to the age where he doesn't care anymore, and he just does the parts that he wants to do. I'm pretty sure somebody went, "Hey, you want to be this emoji?" And he's like, "What the hell? I've done everything else. Why not be an emoji?" Wait, I have to be the shit. Okay, that's okay. I guess I could do that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've never met Patrick Stewart, and we don't interact on Twitter. I used to see William Shatner tweeting a lot, and I don't really notice that much anymore. I don't know if he's...
I've been seeing a lot of Shatner around. He's around.
Yeah.
But you know, it's funny, talking about Patrick Stewart, I watched Excalibur the other night and realized he never had hair.
No, he's never had hair.
He never. So...
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea how old he was at the beginning of Star Trek: The Next Generation, but dude has got to be like in his 80s or 90s now, I would think.
And he's doing another one.
Yeah, it's called Picard. It's going on CBS app.
I'm
curious.
I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm
honestly
as bad as Discovery is.
Well, hang on. Have you seen season 2 of Discovery?
I haven't.
Okay, you need to watch season 2 of Discovery. It redeemed itself. First season was completely weird. The second season was amazing. The second season actually they meet up with the Enterprise pre-Kirk, and it's a really good story arc for that entire season. I almost gave up on it after season 1, and then I found out what they were doing with season 2. And I was like, oh my god! And now that I know what they're doing with season 3, I have a feeling it's going to get a lot better. But I can't really say anything because you haven't seen season 2 yet.
See, there's so much rich lore for them to probe there, and that's where I think I mean, what they did to the Klingon. But I won't anyway. But it's like in that thread last night, I was talking about Prelude to Axanar, which was a crowdfunded project. And did you watch it? Did you watch that video?
Actually, I watched it I watched it right after it came out. Wasn't that because if I remember right, that was the one where CBS was like, "We're going to sue you."
They sued the shit out of him.
Yeah,
but
it was done so well they
won.
were worried.
They won. They won the rights to do like 3 or 4 episodes. With the way that they did it on YouTube and everything. But yeah, they crowdsourced $1 million for that. They got the guy who played Martok in DS9 and but yeah, they got a rich cast. Tony Todd's in it, and it's the 4 years war with the Klingons right before Star Trek takes place. The original one, the original series. In fact, at the end of it, at the end of Prelude to Axanar, they talk about the new ship that they made for the war with the Klingons, and it's the Constitution class that's in the dry dock. So you know that is also Enterprise pre-Kirk. So
yeah, and
watch it if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, no, I wasn't aware that they'd made episodes. I've seen the trailer. I'm gonna have to go back and watch the episodes now. Because I felt
they haven't made the episodes yet. They just got the rights to do it.
Oh, they haven't. Okay.
That's
been going on for a long time.
As of December of last year.
Sorry? That whole thing about them being sued and stuff has been going on for a long time. Because I hadn't even moved when that teaser trailer just first came out, and I've been here for almost 4 years. But you know, and that's the thing that I think I like the most about Star Trek is the fact that we have so many different fanfic ways, and so many of them aren't cheesy. Like there are tons of Star Trek fanfic stuff on YouTube, and some of them are really well done enough that they actually get stars from the shows to come hang out and do parts again. And I'm like, okay, now you know they're just doing it because they love it, because they're not getting paid anything and they're running around in their uniforms again. But that's kind of, we do what we do because we do it because we love it.
I mean, well, they kind of made fun of that in Galaxy Quest, but it's true, is that you can get the stars from the show to appear in your little low budget thing if the script is good.
Yeah, I mean, because and to me it's like when I'm like, this happened. This has only happened to me a handful of times, but it's been funny as hell when it does. Because I'll be standing in line at a convenience store or something, and I'll get up next and I'll start talking to the lady, and I'll get stopped on the way out the door. Your voice sounds so familiar. Do I know you from somewhere? I'm like, well, I'm a part-time talk show host. And they're like, that's where I know you from. I'm like, yeah, maybe. It's just the fact that...
Yeah, that never happens to me. I'm in the sticks.
Yeah, well... I live in the sticks, but I don't work in the sticks. I'm still trying to find a way to be able to work from home, because one of the things that has been driving me crazy lately is it takes me like an hour to get to work and an hour to get home, and I'm like, that's 2 hours of my life that I could be doing important things like working on a website. Something.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, I work from home and I still don't have the 2 hours to work on a website sometimes. So yeah.
That's good. Well, we won't go there.
We won't go there. Anyway. So anyway, YouTube demonetization and the creeping rewriting of history. That's where we left off before we went tangent.
I know it's not really so much a rewriting of history as it is a whitewash of history. They're not rewriting it; they're completely removing it. It's gone. You know, and you know, there's an old axiom: those who control the past control the future. Those who control the present control the past.
Yeah, it's actually in a Rage Against the Machine song.
Yeah, I think it was actually a quote somewhere else before it became a Rage Against the Machine.
I'm sure it is. It's in my. I can only when I hear that quote, I can only hear it in Rage Against the Machine format. But no, I'm sure. No, you're right. It is an old axiom, and you know, it's like the same with those who don't study the past are condemned to repeat it. And you know, a perfect example of that is England today. You have one of the greatest empires who has ever set foot on the earth is now ready to completely abdicate all responsibility. They have given up. They're confiscating spoons. They don't even want to be a sovereign nation anymore. And that's, if you look at them at their height 300 years ago to now, and it's an empire in decline. And their failure was not to pay attention to the fall of the Roman Empire before them.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's the whole thing. Eventually, at some point, it starts happening. And just for the record, I'm a little bit disappointed because I softballed you an Orwell quote. You completely whiffed it because that's who said that.
Who did?
Orwell.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I did my. As much as I've spoken about Orwell tonight, I didn't catch it.
Well, that's why I was like, surely he'll get this one because he's been talking about him all night. You're like, it's a raging. No, somebody else said it before them. I promise. And you're like, well, maybe
I know. Yeah. But like I said, I can only hear that in Rage Against the Machine format now.
So Rage Against the Machine has changed your history because now you.
Yes. It's completely whitewashed away. They've completely whitewashed away George Orwell.
Somebody needs to. I used to think he was crazy. Now I know the truth.
Yeah, and you didn't think it was an instruction book, did you?
Yeah, no, that's the whole thing. I think one of my... Honestly, I'm starting to formulate an article because I'm supposed to start contributing to the Knock Report soon. I think that's actually going to be I can't use that exact title because somebody's gone there, but that's kind of the article that's running through my head right now. This was not supposed to be an instruction manual.
Right. Well, it's, the news break before we came on, they were talking about how mushrooms are legal in Oakland now. You heard that?
I've heard a little bit about that. I actually know some people here locally that are into treating PTSD, and they say that, shrooms used in micrograms can actually help with PTSD and everything else. So,
I'm sure there's many medicinal things, but this is recreational use. Mushrooms are now legal in Oakland. So here's, you want to go with another famous dystopian quote: "A gram is better than a dam."
Pretty much. I mean, think about it, though.
Yeah, so...
Well, I mean, from this perspective, think about it. In California now, you're pretty much guaranteed, no matter which major city you're in, to see needles everywhere and human feces everywhere. What better way to have them not notice if they're always high?
Exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, it's the soma. Whether it be the legalization of pot, legalization of mushroom. And the libertarian in me says, great, do it. But on the other hand, too, is the responsibility of not losing your awareness of, your situational awareness when you do it. And if you're just doing it to tone out, a gram is better than a dam, as I'm not going to get mad about YouTube, I'm just going to take some mushrooms, smoke some pot, and have a beer. Then you're the problem.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, because you know me, I'm probably a pretty even split between conservative and libertarian, because there's certain things that I'm really libertarian about. This happens to be one of them, because I honestly think the only way that we're ever going to stop a lot of the border crap that we have going on right now, just legalize all of it. Who the hell cares? They're adults. If they can't manage it themselves, then Darwin will take care of the rest.
Yeah, and I'll even go one step further. If you want to register drug users,
Why do you got to try to get the government involved in this?
No. I'm just saying is that okay? Look, here's the deal. If you want to be that, and I'm all for it. You know what? I'm not full libertarian, lullibitarian with hey, ain't heroin great for 10-year-olds? But if an adult wants to develop a cocaine habit, awesome, go for it. But the state does not pick up the tab later. You are responsible for your actions, whether that be your auto insurance and your health and well-being later in life. You are responsible for all of it. You are responsible enough to take the drugs. You are responsible enough to pay for the consequences. And this is coming from a long-time drug user. I did meth once for 4 years. But I took full responsibility for that.
Yeah, and I've never done anything like that, but I have alcoholism. It's rampant in my family. My uncle died of liver failure, so I always struggle with that. Can I socially drink? Or is it some point when I'm just going to say, okay, things suck enough that I'm just going to climb into a bottle and never come out like most of my family does? I don't really drink that often, and when I do, I try to do it in moderation. So because I have to be the one at the end of the day responsible for my own actions. Not to change subjects, but I think Alexa might be trying to be sending you a bat signal. She's now in the who to follow trending section of my Twitter feed.
Poor Alexa, she's down right now because of my crap internet connection. A little green ring keeps going around to notify me that I got a delivery, but I can't access it because I had just enough internet for Amazon to send that pulse out, and then it's gone.
It's just funny. I happen to look up, and I'm like, who to follow? First thing I see is Alexa, and I'm like, Ordy, somebody's looking for you.
It's like my wife calling the bar.
Is he there? That's a dumb question. He's here.
When I was a bartender, we had a policy. If your wife calls and you're not here, you tell her.
Pretty much. I had the same policy because when I first started my security agency, a lot of our contracts were bars. So sometimes we would pull in people for special events and stuff, and things would die down. So I would start sending people home. And I'm like, if your wife starts looking for you at 4 a.m, I'm not your alibi, so get your ass home.
Right. Yeah, you want to go to an after parties club after, that's on you, but I'm not your middleman in that one. Because I will rat you out.
Pretty much. All right, so I have to ask this question because I keep seeing this and I haven't been able to find anything to confirm it. Did the House really just pass an illegal immigration package today?
God, you know what? I saw a blurb on that too, but I didn't have a chance to follow up on it because, God, we suck as topic, staying topical today. I did not get to follow up on that. I saw a blurb, and then again, I've had this internet problem all day, so I've actually been in an unintentional solitary confinement.
Yeah, well, sometimes I find the unintentional ones are the best ones. No, because then you just kind of wipe your hand, you wash your hands of it, and you realize it's like we joke about it all the time, and even Varick made a job about it tonight when G's internet was down. He's like, "Well, at least it wasn't a drunk guy on a tractor." But
right.
As stressed out as I was for that 3 days I didn't have internet, about halfway through it, I was like, you know what, this ain't so bad. I don't have to worry about all of this anymore. I'm not on Twitter getting yelled at by stupid people, and then everything came back, and I went back to Crazy Town. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was going to start watching Good Omens tonight.
What the hell is that?
It's on Amazon. It's David Tennant. Near as I can tell from the blurbs, is that decided that the world needs to end, and a devil and an angel will get together to try and stop it.
Oh,
but it's it looks like kind of comedy.
I have heard of that. I don't have Amazon Prime anymore.
Yeah. Anyway, I was going to start watching it tonight, but since I don't have internet, I guess I will have to see what's on my DVR. Probably an episode of Van Helsing from 2 years ago. I haven't finished watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Van Helsing's another one that I was kind of surprised how much I actually liked that show. Except in this last season, it went weird again. So I'm kind of on the fence now.
What, Van Helsing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the first season. I was looking forward to the second season. I got an episode in, and something sidetracked me. I think it was because it was on the same times as Game of Thrones was, before the last season, was on the same time of year, and I only have so much time to devote to television, thankfully. But so I think it kind of got pushed to the wayside and forgotten until I just mentioned it just now.
You're like, hey, I bet I have Van Helsing on my DVR. But yeah, so, not to completely just go all over the place tonight because we've already been doing it anyway. We only have about 9 minutes left. The one thing that I've considered getting Amazon Prime for again is, and for some reason now the name of the show escapes me, but they just got canceled off of Sci-Fi, and I heard that Prime...
The Expanse.
Yes.
Is
that actually on there yet?
They've transferred the library over from Sci-Fi. They haven't started the new season yet. I think it's supposed to start. It's sometime this year that it's supposed to start up. So, but yeah, the previous 2 seasons are in the library now on Amazon. So, but yeah, and that's why I like things like Prime, is that it gives a chance for these shows to get canceled. And I really wish that Netflix or Prime had picked up Dark Matter. But it gives a second life for these. The same way that Sci-Fi Channel gave a second life to Stargate SG-1, because it used to be on Showtime. And then Showtime canceled it, I want to say season 4 or season 5, and then Sci-Fi picked it up immediately.
Yeah, it was 4.
And and then that became that was the focus of Sci-Fi, because until then, I mean, aside from Farscape, all Sci-Fi Channel did was play old Twilight Zone reruns and some shit made for TV movies that they didn't even produce at the time.
Actually, they trashed Sliders before they actually managed to hit a home run with Stargate.
Right. Yeah, that's right. I forgot that they completely... Oh, God, that was terrible.
And
the last seasons were just terrible.
I used to really like that show, too, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, you're not actually the Quinn from this Earth. And I'm like, what? Come on, man. And then there was the whole wormhole incident that merged the two. And no, just stop it.
Yeah, and then the last season, there was just the crying man left. I was like, why? That's just desperation.
Well, yeah, I mean, because they changed everybody else out at that point because they had the military chick in there, the person by then. Jerry, what's his name, had left, and so they had somebody else playing.
Jerry O'Connell.
They had somebody else playing a character then, and I was just by the last season I was like, who cares? And it started with such promise too, and then it just turned into regular alien sci-fi crap, and I'm like, why did we have to go there? You guys had a completely unique concept, and then you just had to make it like every other sci-fi show ever.
Well, and that was, they went completely formulaic, which is what we talked about with the Star Trek thing last night, too. When somebody asked, did I like the new movies? I said, they could have put any name on those. And it was your boilerplate action space film. They didn't need to put Star Trek on it. The only reason why they put Star Trek on it was to get the fans in. But there was nothing, I don't care about any of the characters. There was nothing that, I could identify with in those as being Star Trek, other than the uniforms and some of the terminology.
Dude, the lens flare drove me crazy. I don't know what it is.
God damn, J.J. Abrams and lens flare.
Yeah, I was like, why? You're putting lens flare everywhere, dude. And speaking of not caring about the characters, even Chris Pine apparently didn't care about the characters because he said, "F you, I'm out."
Yeah, I mean, Honest Trailers did a lens flare count on the first one. 270 something in 3 hours, including the credits. 270 lens flare. And it was just ridiculous. They'd be walking across the screen and there'd be lens flare off an instrument panel. It's like, Jesus Christ, stop.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe lens flare does it for him.
Yeah, when he did, I said it last night too. When he did Star Wars, I was terrified because with two suns on Tatooine, the lens flare will burn out your retina.
Oh, dude, don't even get me started on Star Wars, though. I'm so disappointed in that whole last trilogy because they started with what could have been a rich tapestry, and then they just said, yeah, screw it. We're not going to do any of that. I mean...
And not only we're not going to do any of that, we're going to virtue single while we're not doing it.
So here's the thing, and I think we've talked about this before, but I just want to make sure that you noticed the same thing that I did. Was it me, or was Episode 7 a complete rehash of Episode 4 with a female lead character?
Yes. It was a new with the female lead.
See, there
was absolutely nothing original about that movie at all.
Nothing. I mean, it's a Death Star on steroids. Big flipping deal. And so here's my other take, right? So every other Star Wars movie, episode, book we've ever read, there's a long story arc between figuring out that you have the ability to access the Force and actually being able to use the Force. And unless it's by mistake. Like there were a couple times when Anakin was a kid that you could tell that probably the reason why he wasn't crashing into the side of canyons and stuff like that was probably because he was inadvertently accessing the Force. And I get that. But for her to be able to basically pick up a lightsaber and fight the big bad to a dead stop in the first movie, fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, in the lore, there's a thing called wild talent Force user, and but still, it's not refined enough to where you would. Yes, no, there's nothing. When they did the first one, before they did The Force Awakens, when Disney got it and they said nothing is sacrosanct, everything canon in the past doesn't exist. All the extended lore, the books, the video games, it's gone. None of this exists. And that was like, it was as bad as what Lucas did with The Phantom Menace, where all of a sudden the Force is microbes in your bloodstream. It was that bad.
Well, actually, that's been part of the lore for a while, because, I mean, they talked about that in the books a lot. It's not really that the Force was part of... It's not really that the Force itself was a microbe. It was something... It's basically a microbe.
Yeah, the metachlorine.
Yeah, I mean, and that's been part of the lore for a long time. But again... let's not forget the fact that I'm pretty sure George Lucas was drunk one night, came up with this idea on a cocktail napkin, and tried to convince people that he had a big, huge story arc, and wound up stealing most of it from somebody else. But yeah, it's a story for another day.
And stole his ideas. Yeah, that'll be. I'll try to get an hour's worth of material on that one, so that way we could do a juxtaposition on it.
Might as well. I mean, because there's all kinds of stories behind that one, and honestly, I never believed them until I saw the train wreck of episode 1, 2, and 3. Because with as well as 4, 5, and 6 fit together, for you to keep making the excuses of, well, I don't want to do any other movies until we can find a way to make sure that the original characters can be part of the movies and still look the same. And then 20 years later, you decide, we're going to go in reverse instead. I'm like, okay, cool. And then it's just a train wreck from episode 1 all the way through episode 3. I'm just like, you're kidding me? First of all, you found the flattest, most boring. I mean, they should have just waited for the kid that played him originally to grow up, because at least he could act.
Right. Yeah, not very well, but at least he could. But, okay. Red Letter Media, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they do this. They do a great dissection of films and TV and books. So they have this one guy, Mr. Plinkett, and he's his own fictional character, and he did a shot-for-shot review of the first 3 Star Wars films. And he's talking about the beginning of episode 1 versus the beginning of episode 4. And in the beginning of episode 4, you've got the little Carillion Corvette from the Rebellion going by. And then you have this long, low shot of the Star Destroyer that takes a full minute of screen time to go by. And it is a metaphor for everything that goes on in Star Wars about how the rebellion is small and insignificant and it's standing up to this giant galactic force. And it is a shot that is so brilliant that George Lucas probably fought against it even being put in the film.
Sadly, you're probably right. Do we really need to do that? Because you just gave away the whole plot in one scene.
Yeah. I mean, it's like C-3PO was supposed to be a smarmy car salesman kind of character, and Han Solo was supposed to be a green alien with two heads, and just no. How did you write that? How did those films come out of these? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't I don't know. Anyway, we're back around to the top of the hour, so unless you want to just hang out and keep BSing for a second, we should probably reset and.
My throat's dry and my internet's being frustrating, and so I should probably call it.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging out. At least now we've got something in the can, because we have on the ones that are on iHeart, we have to make sure we put something fresh up at least every 2 weeks, and that's when Dan was like, I can't do tonight either. I'm like, well, if nothing else, I'll just do an off the chain one on that feed and not do off the rails. And then you're like, I can fill in. I'm like, yay. But yeah.
No, anytime you need me to. I'm available Wednesday nights. If Dan needs to crap out, then I'm more than happy to jump in.
Hopefully next time your internet will work better.
Yeah. Oh man, they're getting a strongly worded letter tomorrow, because they were supposed to be back between 1 and 5 today, and then when I contacted them, they said no, that was Friday.
So how are you going to send them a strongly worded letter? You going to put it in a bottle?
Yep. Put it in a bottle, throw it in the ocean.
I'm just playing, man. Anyway, thanks for filling in tonight. We're going to get out of here, folks. I'm going to get reset here in a second, and we may do at least a little bit of an off the rails tonight. I don't know if I have enough to do a full episode, because the time I thought I was going to have to plan stuff turned into traffic stuff. So, but we're going to reset, get things kicked off, and we'll be right back here in just a minute. But before that, before you go anywhere, Ordy, why don't you remind folks where they can find you?
Yeah, sure. They can find me on Twitter as Ordy Packard. They can find me on Parlay as Ordy Packard. They can find me every Wednesday night on KLRN Radio, usually on Politibunny, and filling in whenever you guys need me.
Yeah, I noticed you're doing the same thing I'm doing half the time. I tell people about Parlay, and I'm like, Parlor, and then Parlay, and Parlor, and Parlor. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
those damn French and their screwy spelling. All
right, man.
All right, have a good.
We'll be back in a few minutes, folks. Gonna get reset. Good night, everybody.